Since this is our third time doing regressions, we're only going to do one example of actually finding a regression. Here's our instructions from how to make a regression in your calculator. Only thing that's changing here is now we're going to go to 0 and 9. So when I am in stat and go over to calc, we have now used linear number 4. That was the first lesson on regressions. We have used number 5, which was the second lesson on regressions. That's your quadratic regression. So now here is my natural log or my logarithmic function, our regression, and my exponential. So now that's really the only thing that's different in this steps that we're doing here. I do want to show you this power regression, which is one of your homework questions, I believe, is going to ask you to find a power regression. So power regression is just one below that exponential. You need to go to letter A in case it asks for that. So example 2 says the table shows the total personal income in the United States in billions of dollars for selected years from 1960 and projected through 2024. Part A wants us to find the best fitting exponential. So you're not going to have to pick between exponential and logarithmic regressions. It's going to tell you one or the other. And I think in maybe 1 or 2 of your questions, it's going to ask you to do both, and you're going to compare which one's a better fit. But in general, it's going to say find the best fitting exponential. So I know I'm going to 0, or it will say find the best fitting logarithmic function. Okay, but you're not going to have to choose between the two. That will model this data with x equal to the number of years after 1960 and with y in billions of dollars. We're going to round to 3 decimal places as needed. So I need to put this into my calculator, but first, if my x is equal to the number of years after 1960, I need to change these numbers here. So this one, I guess I'll write it over here to the side. This is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. I told you to be aware of this. And this is actually the first time it's coming into play. Don't just assume it's 50, 60, 70, 80. Notice now these are going in increments of 8 right here. So this is now 48. If you subtract this from 1960, my brain's broken. Give me a second. Okay, 54. So that one only incremented or had an increment of 6. Now we have an increment of 4 here. So this is 58. And then another 6 years for 64. Okay, so be careful. Don't just assume they're going by tens because half of them are going by tens. So here is my L1. And then here is my L2. Now, I'm not going to make a scatter plot. I just want the regression, but I do need some of these steps to make a scatter plot. I still need to enter it in. I will just stop at that zoom 9. So I'm not going to do that, but I am going to do the rest of this here. Okay, so first we need to go to stat. We're going to hit enter because I want to edit the data that I already have stored. Now, this time I do have stuff stored. So I'm going to arrow up, hit clear, and then hit enter. It's not going to clear until you hit enter. Do the same thing for your L2, highlight it, hit clear, and then hit enter, and now it's clear. So now I'm going to enter in my data. I hope you are doing this with me so you can make sure you can do this on your own as well. Definitely the most tedious part of the lesson. Okay. So I've entered in all my data. I can easily check my list one. Okay, I like my list one. For some of these, most of the top ones, I can check in here. But once it gets to this one here, you're going to have to, so see how it says 12,101, but it's 12,100.7. If you put your cursor or your highlighter or whatever on it, you can see what you actually put in here. It just ran out of places and digits to enter it in there. So you'll have to kind of hover over it to then check the rest of these. Okay, and I like all of my numbers. So if you need more time, pause this video and then hit play once you have entered and once you have checked. Check, check, check. So now I'm going to go in here. I already have everything cleared and my plot one is turned on. So we are ready to go through these steps now. So I'm going to go to stat again. And now I need to arrow over to calc. Because this one specifically asks for an exponential, I want 0. So you can either arrow down or just hit in 0. And it will tell you right here, we're doing an exponential regression. So I know I hit the right one. I'm still not going to go through these optionals. If you want to know what that optional does, go back to Module 1, Lesson 6, where I showed you what this optional feature does, but we don't need it for this one. And I'm going to go to Calculate. And so here is my answer. So we are rounding to 3 decimal places. So that means my A, I'm going to put my calculator over here. My A is about 550.109. And actually for my answer key, that does not match. So I'm going to pause this video real quick and check my data again to see if I entered it in wrong this time or last time. Okay, I did enter in the data wrong. I accidentally put 441 instead of 411. So let's change that. So when you check, make sure you really, really check. Okay, because I got this number wrong. And so now, dang it. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go to stat over here to calc number 0. I want an exponential regression and calculate. So these are the answers I have on my answer key. And so you can see how these numbers get a little off if you are off on putting this in your calculator. So I did check, but my dyslexia got the best of me. So be better than me, please. Okay, so to 3 decimal places, this is going to be 5, 6. That 9 needs to go up because of that 7. So that 69 needs to go up to a 70. Okay, and if you want to put a 0 behind, you can, but it's not necessary. And then my B is about 1.06. That 9 makes that 4 go up to a 5. Okay, so there's my A and my B. And it shows you what your formula is that you're using. We are using y equals A times B to the X. And this X, it doesn't matter if it goes in or out of those parentheses. So then let's move this over a little bit so I remember right. My equation then, or my regression, is y equals my A, 53.57 times my B. Okay. So there is my regression. So it goes on to say if the model is valid in 2030, which goes beyond my data here, what is the projected total income then? Okay, so is this representing my X or my Y? Well, years are my X's right here. So I'm going to do X equals 2030 minus 1960. Which means that my X is 70. Okay, so let's put this in our calculator and let's just use our trace feature because we're going to need it for part C anyways. So we'll graph it and then we'll do trace 70, enter to get our answer here. Okay, so Y equals, and we're putting this in. Okay, and I'm going to go zoom 9 since we're talking about scatter plots and regressions. Or zoom 9, zoom stat. Now we can see kind of how good this regression is. I should have taken all these plots off, but you can see how good that is right there. I'm going to take off my plot 1, and then also before I even, oh no, that will work. So taking off my scatter plot, I turn my plot 1 off. And now let's do trace 70, enter. So trace 70, enter. And here is my answer right here. My Y is in monies. So we have 43,819.5 or 0.15, and this is in billions. Okay. Now this says, in what year does the reported model predict that the total personal income will reach 44.147 trillion? Now there's a little bit of a problem with that. This does represent my Y, and I'm actually going to end up putting that into my Y2 when I graph. But this right here is in trillions. And I need this in billions. So I'm going to need to take that decimal and move it 3 places over. So my Y2 is actually going to be 44147. Okay, and now this is in billions. So in my Y2, I am putting what this equals because they're talking about that Y. What I'm doing is I'm putting it in place of this Y right here. So putting our number in, hit graph. We need to be able to see this intersection here. Okay, I'm not seeing that intersection because here's where my Y max is. It is way, way lower than this number is here. So let's go to 50,000. And I'm going to change this to 0. See if we can get an intersection now. Okay, I can maybe see an intersection. Let's just keep playing with that window and make this a little bit better. I'm not going to go back in time. I'll go ahead and change that to a 0, 2. And let's just go to 100 to make sure we can get that intersection in here. All right, there we go. So that's very clearly in my window. So now I'm going to go to calc by hitting second trace, and I want the intersection. So number 5, and you can see calc intersect. So enter, 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 and it is crossing right here at 70.1. In what year? This is about 70 years. So in 2030. Which should kind of make sense because that's almost the exact same number here. So we are very, very close. It makes sense here. Now, it wants to know in what year, and sometimes specifically in these regression ones, when it wants to know what year and it's 70.1, they're saying we went the full 70 years and now we're 0.1 into that 71st year. So the answer very well could be 2031 as well. So if this one doesn't work, try that one.